I've used this 5 year journal for more than 10 years now, so I've been living with the same pages for a long time. Large parts of it are blank, and in the beginning, that really bothered me because I thought I was failing at the format. I kept checking whether I was keeping up, whether I was using it properly, and whether I was already too far behind to fix it. At the time, that felt responsible, almost adult. Looking back, I can see that I was measuring something that didn't actually matter. I just didn't know that yet. I'm Julie. Welcome to these pages where I follow my life through notebooks, slowly and by hand. The first 5 year journal I chose was a prompt-based Q&A. It was small, hardbound, and each day already had a short question printed on the page. What I liked about that was how little it asked of me. I didn't have to invent a reason to write or decide what counted. I could open the book, read the line, and answer it, or not. That mattered more than I realized at the time, because it made the journal easy to return to. It lowered the bar, just enough that starting didn't feel like a decision. Years later, when I went back and reread some of those entries, that's when something else happened. I came across a few ordinary snippets I had completely forgotten. One was about my son lighting a fire in the stove, and the two of us sitting quietly with our books while it crackled in the background. Another was about baking bread, the smell filling the kitchen, and eating it while it was still warm, with cheese that almost melted as we sat down together. I didn't remember either of those days at all, but reading them years later, I could feel the warmth of them again, which surprised me because I hadn't realized moments like that were being stored at all. At the start, I answered the prompts fairly often, though not every day. Over time, I began to ignore the question and wrote about whatever stood out instead. Looking back now, both feel right. At some point, I didn't check whether I was keeping up. Instead, I began to feel at ease with blank days and stopped treating the journal like something that was quietly judging me. These days, I see the pages as available space instead, not a record I have to maintain, and not something waiting for me to mess it up, just space that's there when I return. Around the same time, I also noticed a few rough sketches in there. I later shared some of those in another video when they resurfaced. In the beginning, I didn't paste anything into this journal because each spread was tied to specific dates. As the years passed, a lot of those weeks stayed blank. I moved beyond the original 5 year span, and at some point it became obvious that this wasn't really a 5 year journal anymore. It had turned into something closer to a decade journal. Once the dates stopped defining the book, I also stopped protecting them quite so carefully. That's when things started getting adding more freely. Everyday pieces, travel material, ordinary life. Looking at it now, what I like is seeing the moment when time quietly took over from structure. When I chose the second journal, I hope Techo, I carried a few things forward. I chose the same small size because I wanted something easy to bring with me. I've taken this one on short trips and on a long one to the US, where the tray table in the plane is just big enough to journal on. What stood out to me later wasn't how often I wrote. It was that returning mattered more than consistency ever did. One thing I knew I wanted was the Tomoe River paper. This isn't about fountain pens. I haven't used one in this journal yet. I like the crinkly sound when I turn those thin pages. In this journal, the dates live on the left hand page only, while the right hand side is open. That makes pasting tempting because the space is clearly there. At the same time, I'm much more aware now of what that choice means. If I paste something in today, that space is gone, not just for this year, but for the next 5 years, possibly longer. Knowing that has changed how quickly I act. Some decisions don't just fill space, they quietly close it. Letting this become a 10-year journal is a real option, even if I'm not deciding that here. I don't feel any urgency to settle it this year. What I'm paying attention to instead is whether the journal still has room to change shape, not just visually, but in how I relate to it over time. Leaving that undecided feels deliberate rather than vague. If you're curious about how I use the Hobonichi 5-year journal, I share that in some quiet, no talk, no music journaling videos. They are meant for background companionship and not for explanation. Throughout 2025, I used a stencil for the first word of every entry and colored it in, choosing different colors without any real system. I really like the way the colored word looks, and it gives each entry a sort of anchor amidst my writing. This is also where I did something that didn't age particularly well. I stamped Wednesday and Sunday throughout the entire book, which worked perfectly for 2025, and then immediately stopped lining up for the next 4 years. I have no idea why I committed that hard, but there they are. Sometimes you make decisions that are completely reasonable at the time, and later they just become part of the record. I spent years worrying about whether I was using these journals properly. That turned out to be the least important part. What matters to me now is whether there's still room to write when I want to paste things in when it makes sense, and to not know yet what this will become. If you want more pages like this, drawn, written, unfinished, you're welcome to subscribe and stay. Thank you for being here. And come, walk with me into the pages still waiting.